everyone. I am going to talk a little bit about judgment. Judgment is a topic that I love to talk about. So I'm going to try to keep this short because we come from a culture of judgment. We just do. Judgment, and I think comparison, and again, culture of comparison, I think happens from our families. And it also happens in our school systems. And the comparison that we sort of become, part of our habitual experience becomes the lens of judgment. Okay. So let me talk now, for those of you who don't know a little bit about my background. I actually come from the world of early childhood education around neuroscience and understanding the implications of trauma. Okay, so that's going to be the lens that I come through. So I want to go to that idea of comparison. When we are young children, very often what happens with parents, because we love our children, right? We want to, I don't want to say we want to compare, but we do. We compare in terms of language. We compare in terms of, whether your child is walking a good baby. I don't know how many times I've heard that in my field of work. Is she a good baby? There's always this comparison. And sometimes it goes into competition. There's that sense of competition that my kid is what I call the Estes, the best, the fastest, the smartest, the whatever, right? We even had back in the day, and I don't think they do this anymore, but we used to have this whole even in yearbooks, like the most likely to and the one who does this and the best of that. In school systems, we do honor roll systems still where people get certificates for this and for that. It's this perspective of trying to motivate. And so I call that sort of the carrot and the stick perspective. And I'm not going to go into that right now because that's a whole nother talk. But we get into this place of comparing. Who am I compared to her, compared to him? And it could be, and you could be thinking about anything. It could be academics, it could be sports, it could be friendliness, it could be just, anything, even your physical body. And so we grow up in a culture that's constantly comparing and then identifying who's better than, right? And so then that becomes our experience. And the way the brain works is the more and more we have an experience, then it becomes sort of the lens we see the world through. Now, as we move forward, and I'm going to move into judgment here, but I also want to make a statement about judgment, is that in some cultures and in some families, and when I say culture, I'm not talking necessarily about ethnicity. I'm talking about the culture within families. In some cultures, we judge and we talk about people in front of our children. We talk about and we judge constantly what people are wearing, what she said. I can't believe she did that. Why would she bring him to the party like that? I can't believe she wore what she did. We're in this constant state of judgment. Oh, she went to college and look at, she never did anything with that degree. We're constantly in this state of judgment in our conversations with people. Now, I'm a consultant, okay? So I spend a lot of time in coffee shops. And in coffee shops, sometimes you're close proximity. It's like you just hear conversations, even if you're not trying to hear conversations. And I will tell you that 90% of the conversations that are happening around me that I'm in close proximity of are conversations about someone else. What she said, what she didn't say. And I can't believe this happened. We're in this constant state of judgment. Now, you go into the workplace then, right? You go into the workplace, and we call that an evaluation process. We call that maybe even supervision. In some places, they call it that. And so we are in this constant state of telling someone else, or not even telling that person, but having an engagement judging someone, right? Okay. So the problem with judgment is that it really pushes us into this state of separation. Right? It's like, I'm better than. And when I talk about so-and-so, if there's that little inkling, and this is where you have to get really, really, really down to your core beliefs and values and get honest. It's like getting real. Is there a little part within you that goes, I'm better than? And those of us sort of that are in this spiritual journey, right? Sometimes this happens when we're talking about people who are in very religious types of environment. So they go to this particular church, they're part of this religion, and we might say, oh, well, they're just not there yet. We get it. We get it in this spiritual community. I've done this, and that, whatever. And so it's still separation. It's still, there's that I'm better than, I'm more than, I'm more spiritual than. And so it really, that whole experience isn't really about love. It's not about extending love. It's not recognizing who we really are as divine beings. And there's that part within us that's seeking validation and wanting to basically, say that we're worthy and we're worthy of love. And so it's an outside thing that we do, seeking that, and we do it in our engagement. And sometimes oftentimes we don't even recognize what we're doing because it's such a habitual pattern of our existence. And so the key, one of the things that I talk about is to really just pay attention to your thoughts about people, even yourself, because it's a whole different judgment of self is pretty significant. And a lot of people do that. And so those are two different things. So judgment of self and judgment of others. And just pay attention to your thoughts. That's it. Just pay attention. How many times in this 15-minute period have I judged what someone is saying, what they did? A good thing to do is as you're driving down the street, and you see someone walking down the street, do you automatically go to a place of judgment? If you see someone holding a sign asking for money, do you go to a place of judgment? If you are out grocery shopping or shopping somewhere and you see someone maybe with 6 kids, and do you go to a place of judgment? So, and everyone's lens, sorry, it's my dog. Everybody's lens is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be based on your own life experiences. And so what you perceive as inappropriate or, oh my goodness, I can't believe that's happened, it's all going to be based on your own value system, your own belief system, your own experiences. So pay attention to that. Now, the intent of this is not to then self-judge. You're out there. It's not for you to go, okay, I'm judging. Oh my God, I'm such a horrible person. That's not the intent, because it's still judgment. It's still judgment. So what you want to do is just grow an awareness of it, and grow an awareness that you're doing that, and go, there, I noticed that I just did that. That's it. I noticed that I just did that. And in that moment, you can actually shift out of it. You can shift and think differently. You can shift and so I say extend love, but here's the concern that I have. So when I extend love, I come from a place of love and sort of extend love out. But what happens sometimes is that you see someone that you may have passed judgment, right? And so then we extend love from a place of poor you. And you know what this reminds me of? When I used to travel nationally to do lots of trainings and consultations and stuff like that. I was in Louisiana, and this one particular woman, she, it was kind of weird for me, because she was talking to me, and I think she was putting me down, but she was smiling, and I was very confused by the whole conversation, because she kept saying, bless your heart. So she said, bless your heart, and she was telling me things that I was like, I'm not sure if she is putting me down, or is that, I was very confused. So it was that sort of, I'm going to extend these kind words to you, but there was a little bit of poor you, like you just don't get it yet. And I remember walking away feeling dirty. I was like, I don't know what just happened there. So sometimes we have this thing that we do when we see someone we're passing judgment, and we go, oh, they just don't get it, them, poor them. I'm going to send them love. I'm going to pray for them. And we are still doing this sort of one-up. That's what we're still doing. So start to just grow an awareness of it. That's the first step. Oh, I just did that. But don't judge yourself. Just notice it. I call it take a seat. You're going to hear me a lot talk about this. Take a seat from the balcony. And what that means is if you're watching a play and you take a seat from the balcony, you're just an observer. You go, oh, there I go again. I used to have long time ago, I had a therapist who was just amazing. It was like when I was in my early 20s. He was amazing. He says to me, sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself. Sometimes you just got to go, there I go again. And so you just recognize that it's happening, and then you can, at that point, identify the need to shift. You can go, oh, I'm going to shift out of that, and I'm going to think something different, or I'm going to be in the present space, and I'm going to recognize what exactly is happening around me. I'm going to get grounded. So you get to choose to align yourself with your truest, highest self in that moment. But you have to grow in awareness. So how often are you judging? And in the beginning, do 5 minutes. Take a walk outside. Judge. Notice it. Do what you normally do. Don't try to control it, right? Just notice how frequently you go into that space of judgment. You can walk down the street. You look at someone's yard. You look at their truck. Are you filling in blanks based on your own perspectives and your own life experiences? And so what I mean by that, you see a house, maybe a little bit run down. It's got some weeds growing. Are you creating a story where you're filling the blanks in for this house? Same thing with people. Let's say, this is where I grew up with this. We had a neighbor across the street, and I remember this man, it was an older gentleman, and he had a wife. And the wife was there, and then the wife wasn't. And then there was a little car, and I'm pretty sure it was a cleaning, like it was a cleaning service, because I remember it wasn't consistent, but there was a sticker or something on the car. And my mom had created this idea in her mind that the wife had left him and he was cheating on her. I mean, she had created all these stories. She didn't even know the man's name. She didn't even know anything, really know anything about this man. But she created all of these ideas based on just her own perspectives, her own beliefs, all of that. We do that. We do that all of the time. I know I do that when I'm driving. I don't know if you've ever done that. You're driving down the freeway, someone's driving alongside you. You get in your head, he's trying to cut me off. He's trying to get around me. And so then I speed up, and in my mind, my perception is he's speeding up. And so now we're both doing this, and then in my mind, he cuts me off, and then in my mind, I think he slows down. And now I've created a whole story about him, right? And so we're driving from, let's say, one part of the state into the other part of the state, and we're still driving, because sometimes it happens when you do long distance travel, and I still have this thought in my mind. I don't know if you do that. I know I do that. But it's recognizing that I have just filled in the blanks. I'm placing a judgment. I'm filling in the blanks with my own story. How much of is it really true? And is it, then we go into the whole thing about what is truth, right? But what I want you to recognize is when you go to that place. I just went there. There I go. I just went there. I'm going to choose to be in my greatest, highest good right now. I'm going to choose to be in alignment. I'm going to take a couple deep breaths, recognize that happened. Okay, I'm going to practice pulling myself back in. The way that I do that is I notice what's happening around me. So I notice the trees, and I say the colors of the trees. If it's, their leaves are changing because it's a deciduous tree, I might say the, beautiful autumn tree leaves are brown and they're changing colors. Or I might notice the sky. I might notice my car. I might notice whatever's happening around me. That's how I pull myself back into the present moment. That's how I start. And I go from whatever's happening around me into then feeling within me, and then moving into that state of calm and peaceful place that, we all have. We all have the ability to connect with. So anyway, judgment. Think about it. Work through the experience of recognizing it, right? And then practice the process of releasing, okay? And I will tell you, if you are 49 years old, if you are 24 years old, if you are 65 years old, you have worked that many years in perfecting your craft, okay? So if you are Queen Judgy, you have spent 65 years perfecting that craft. So the brain doesn't go away like that, okay? So it takes practice and patience and being kind to yourself as you are working through the process of basically rewiring your brain. That's what you're doing. You're rewiring the structure of the brain that you have become sort of dependent on, or at least it's a habitual pattern that you've created. And it's simply a pattern. That's it. Doesn't make you a horrible person. It doesn't mean that, your parents were horrible because they talked about everybody when you were home. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means it's a habit that you have created. Now your brain is wired to have those experiences, and you can actually create new neural pathways in your brain. We know that you can change your brain at any time. It just requires repetition and, to create new patterns. That's it. That's it. It's just a pattern. So you can change the pattern. Okay? So try it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.